Well, staying with the weather conditions out in Cape Town, heavy rains and strong winds are already causing substantial damage in the capital of the Western Cape. Now, the SA Weather Service issued an orange level 9 warning for parts of the Western Cape, and evacuations are being considered for vulnerable communities. Lehlohonolo Thobela, a forecaster at the SA Weather Services, now joins us for more on this. And Lehlohonolo, good evening to you. Thanks so much for making time for us on this public holiday, but equally important to talk about the extent of the damage that we're seeing here being caused by the weather. Now, you've issued a level 9 warning, an orange level 9 warning. Just to give us clarity for our viewers, what does that mean?
So good evening and thanks for having me. In terms of the impact-based warning, we usually have an impact as well as the metrics of the impact-based warning looks at an impact and likelihood of the impact happening. In this case was for flooding and disruptive rain. The level 9, then orange, would mean the severity of it is that of being it severe, with likelihood of it happening is medium according to the metrics table. So which means that yes, we're expecting disruptive rain to happen, and the impact of the disruptive rain will be severe, as we've seen in the yesterday as well as today, and how the windy conditions and rain have affected the Western Cape province.
And as it stands right now, I mean, how's the Western Cape looking in terms of its weather condition?
Yeah, we have a lot of flooding in areas. I mean, the water depth has been, I mean, they've measured about 100 millimeters of rain within 24 hours, and some areas have more passed that mark of 100 millimeters of rain. So over the area, a lot of roads were closed, national roads were disrupted in terms of traveling, as well as a lot of cars being washed away, or people also. I saw some videos of some people driving bicycles, or rather in a motorbike, being there and cyclings, and all the people being washed away by water from the ocean. And that's when I noticed it. No, it is heavy in terms of the flooding is affecting the disaster management. People are there trying to help in terms of how the communities should be able to respond to this disaster.
Let's know, how long is this weather condition, I mean, expected to last for out in Cape Town?
Okay, so if you're in Cape Town, then you can still expect showers and rain expected tomorrow, especially for the central and the eastern parts. However, the system as it moves further east, much more for what we saw in the Western Cape has moved into the Eastern Cape province. That's where we're expecting disruptive rain and flooding tomorrow, with a warning sent out for disruptive rain and some thunderstorms over some parts of the area, as well as the northeastern parts of the country, then which will then include Mpumalanga and Limpopo. That's where we have also experiencing or expecting a severe thunderstorms for tomorrow. But they'll start then looking up from Wednesday into Thursday. That's when we start seeing a decrease in terms of precipitation in the southwestern areas, as the isolated to a sketchy chance of showers and thunder showers remains in the east, which would cover then the Bloemfontein, Gauteng, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, as well as the eastern parts and the central parts of the Eastern Cape province and KwaZulu-Natal. So it looks like from Wednesday, that's when we start seeing an improvement in precipitation. However, the temperatures remain cool over the southwestern areas.
It's quite an inconvenient time, I think, for travelers right now, Lehlohonolo. You would understand in the long weekend, most people were out of the province visiting family, right? But it seems the caution and warning and appeal from most authorities is to avoid traveling as much as possible, avoid being on the road as it stands right now due to these weather conditions, and avoid crossing streams, rivers, as we've seen with one of the sad, tragic stories out in Philippi, where 4 boys have lost their lives because they were electrocuted and thus floating in a river. Do you reiterate those calls to avoid travel as much as possible as it stands right now today?
Yes, I'm glad in fact, you mentioned all the possibilities of what would happen when we give out these warnings. All the warnings are there so that it serves the impact. So when we change to an early warning system of impact-based warnings to serve that purpose, and states that back then the warning would tell you what the weather will be. Now it tells you what the weather will do in it happening, in terms of it's not just heavy rain in an area. It tells you we'll have heavy rain which will cause flooding. With the flooding, avoid being on the road, avoid traveling in a fast speed along the
Yeah.
streets where it might result in accidents. Also, mind your streams where you're walking, and if you are to be under any beach activities, make sure that you don't park along coastal lines. I mean, you've seen what happened with the high tides and the spring tide when we have in the past 2 weeks. So the Western Cape province have been experiencing much more of the water disasters in terms of how heavy rain as well as high waves energy has been influencing the coastal areas. But it's not only limited to that. The Gauteng also, we sent out a 30% chance of showers and thunder showers, and we're expecting thunderstorms to occur due to that, then resulting in strong winds. And we will see what happened in the past week where we issued a statement about the first thunderstorms over Gauteng and the eastern parts, and everyone woke up to, especially over Pretoria, everyone woke up into conditions where windy conditions caused a lot of debris of what we saw. We saw corrugated iron flying and a lot of things flying
Mm.
over due to the strong winds that were there due from the thunderstorm. So with every warning that we send out, these are the possibilities of things that this is real, and people should just follow the communication, listen to the radio, and just follow what their disaster management people suggest they do for safety.
Yeah. Under the same breath, Lehlohonolo, I mean, with the warning or the appeal that people should, continue staying at home, take shelter, take cover as much as possible, and avoid being on the roads unnecessarily, could we still expect, the heavy rainfalls, particularly in the Western Cape, to cause damage to properties and infrastructure and homes and buildings? I'm also mentioning this because we know some people do live in shacks and informal settlements in low-lying areas where flooding can easily, of course, damage their property.
I mean, if you look at what has happened, already you have flooded roads,
Yeah.
and any amount of showers and rain that keeps adding onto it, it just prolongs the impact of what flooding and rain happens, what it brings to the people around the area. So yes, you've seen the roads which have collapsed, and some people also suffered from road closures and informal settlements. Some structures were blown away or some were moved. So if you are to yet still isolated showers of thunder showers and thunderstorms happening in the central and the eastern parts, if the area was already affected, then any amount of rain that comes in seems to just add on the impact and then keeps it going. Yes, we're still yet to experience much more of these thunderstorms, especially when we are to experience or expect a cut-off low system, which is a weather system that brought all what we've seen today.
Yeah, and just before I let you go, we've spoken about the most impacted, parts of South Africa, the Western Cape being one of them, Gauteng being the other. Any provinces that are not experiencing any negative, rainfall, strong gale winds, a lot of rainfall, etc. Any provinces that are currently enjoying the promised spring as it stands in September?
Yeah, I mean, with time, that's what happens. I mean,
Yeah.
from tomorrow, much more of the showers and thunder showers moved over the Eastern Cape. And then on Wednesday, that's when they further move east. And as they move east, then they leave the western parts cool and fine weather, where then it gets a breather in terms of how the weather has been in the past weeks. And then it keeps that way up until Friday. And then Friday, that's when you see Gauteng and Mpumalanga, Limpopo, areas like that. In fact, most of the country on Friday into Saturday, we'll look at fine weather with warmer temperatures, with just a 30% chance along the west coast of Western Cape. It will be just showers, not nothing hectic as yet. But we see that it differs in terms of summer. We know the central and the eastern parts are yet to experience much more thunderstorms. This is the weather we're seeing in the Western Cape is usually what we experience over the central and the eastern parts of the country.
Well, thank you so much, Lehlohonolo, for making time and speaking to us about this, giving us those stern warnings that I'm hoping that all South Africans will listen to, but also some hope that we'll see, of course, the heavy rainfall dying down in a matter of days. Lehlohonolo Thobela from the SA Weather Service, thank you so much for joining me right here on SA Tonight.